guys, it's been a long night, but we've had some fun playing Marvel Rivals today. We had a great podcast today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I want to welcome all our new guests. It was such an honor. Thank you once again, Retro Lad. You're truly the Xavier to my Cyclops. We've done some really great things here, and I'm really proud of everything that we have done. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate everything that you have done. It means a lot. It really does to me. And so, but as you know, not only did we get to do our podcast today, but we also watched the newest episode of Daredevil. So in this video, enough jibber jabber, let's get into the review. So what did I think about Daredevil episode 3? So first, before we get into all of that, let's make sure that we break down what happened in this episode, and then we're going to give into the review. So this is an interesting episode. We continued where episode 2 left off. Matt Murdock is defending Hector, aka the White Tiger. And we also continued with Fisk, adjusting to being the mayor, but there's still the conflict between him and Vanessa. So you have an A storyline and a B storyline. The B storyline in this episode is Vanessa and Fisk trying to come to terms where each other are at. Fisk is trying to do what he wants to do as the mayor, but he's, as we discover later in the episode, there's also some shady business doing with what he's doing. But he doesn't want his wife to be a criminal. His wife Vanessa is trying to basically pay off her associates to help Fisk get in the positive light here. So they're having issues because Fisk is trying to give her a penance for what, for when Fisk was away in prison. She had an affair with someone named Adam. And we're not talking Adam and Eve. This is a different Adam. But so that's what this B storyline is about, which was pretty interesting. And then they got Heather, the therapist, involved in it, which is, the drama is interesting. And she's visiting Fisk at his mayoral house lately, which is pretty interesting stuff. Fisk called for the reporter, which we'll get to later in the episode. But so the majority of this episode is focused on the trial, right? Matt Murdock is trying to defend. We start this episode with Matt talking to. We start this episode with Matt talking to Hector and figuring out more about him, and then going into the trial. And trial lasted a few days, and we're just trying to build up on. We have to give both sides, but Matt had tried to get the cop perspective of the situation, but the cop didn't want to. The cop didn't want to jeopardize his ruling because his friend was a cop, so he wasn't that had died in the train accident. So he wasn't trying to jeopardize everything. He's not going to take Matt Murdock's lead. So then Matt's getting in trouble with the court because Matt gets a little testy with the situation in the trial, and the judge isn't too happy about it because he outs Hector as the White Tiger to try and get a point that he's trying to make. And Matt gets a little emotional with this. As we know, Matt's dealing with his death of his friend. Everything's kind of just spiraling for him. So that kind of happens. The judge doesn't like that response, so Matt tries and gets the informant on there and gets more information. And then Matt calls, after getting the informant Nikki on there, Matt ends up getting involved with, after hearing Nikki's information, we get Matt actually having Hector involved. And then he tries to have Hector get the narrative of showing Hector all the good he's done as a hero. But then we get this horrible prosecutor on the other side of things that tries to derail the hero thing because Hector's wearing a mask. But good or bad in this situation, Hector did some amazing things as White Tiger and did some amazing good. But throughout this court trial, we also noticed a couple pieces of information. For one, when looking through the cases of all the good that people have reported on, we get a little big Spider-Man, our second Spider-Man Easter egg in the show, showing how awesome the MCU is and at large it is. We find out about Miles Morales' dad being a cop in New York at the same time during this show, because he gave a good testimony on Hector's behalf. Hector talked about his connection with his family and how he lives with his sister and his niece, as well as his wife, and they're trying to get their own place. That's why he was going to where he was at. And so Hector ends up getting out of the trial and being exonerated of all crimes, because the jury, after Matt's testimony for Hector's sake, showing him as a hero, they agree that he's not guilty of any of the accounts of murder. And so, but also on top of the Easter egg parts of this episode, not only do we get the Miles Morales Easter egg, But throughout the episode, the majority of times, we keep seeing the Punisher, the Punisher symbol. We see a sign earlier in the episode with some of the corrupt cops with the words "triggered." Now, if you don't know, these corrupt cops are going to be a big theme in this season as well as season 2, because Fisk eventually will have an anti-vigilante task force. We've covered this in some of our earlier set videos earlier last year, but now we're seeing it come to a head in the story. So they're kind of doing like a George Floyd situation, which we're going to get into in a minute. We're also kind of talking about in the comics, Marvel tried to change the Punisher's logo because of how it's been associated with cops and Marines and everything, which we're going to get into in a minute. But, so, basically, we noticed another corrupt cop in the trial is watching. They're everywhere, basically. And then, once Hector is exonerated, we see Heather and Matt have a nice moment where they toast to Foggy, and Matt cooks dinner, and we have a nice conversation. I love how their relationship's growing. I think it's a great storyline, and I love where they're at with it right now. Unfortunately, no Muse stuff this episode, but I think we're going to get some of that in the next episode, episode 5 and episode 6. So no worries for that. But as things go, next, we see, we go from this moment to literally Hector gets the White Tiger suit and prepares to go out and does some good. Because he tells Matt earlier in this episode that putting on the suit was not just doing it because he wanted to, and he keeps telling people he has this great speech about doing good because it's the right thing to do. He was a really good person, wants to help people. But earlier in this episode, we have Fisk meet with he tells Daniel to meet to bring Ben York's niece, the reporter, the journalist, to talk to her, and explains to write an article about how vigilantes are not saving the city and they're not heroes. He's mad about what happened to Hector, and he wants the truth to get out there from his perspective. So he's trying to twist the narrative. And while he's giving this great Kingpin mayor monologue for Wilson Fisk, you see Hector. We end this episode with Hector being shot by, as some people thought it might have been the Frank Castle himself, but it is actually one of the members of the anti-vigilante task force that is being established. A cop rocking Punisher's symbol kills Hector. And we knew the actor was only going to be in a few episodes because he died during the filming, but he at least made it 3 episodes, and then he was killed. So this was, just like the comics, these first few episodes are one story arc, right? You had the White Tiger storyline, they set him up. Now, some people are disappointed that White Tiger was killed in this episode, but here's the thing. He's only the first person to have the mantle. His niece is already confirmed to be in Season 2. We're going to be seeing the White Tiger mantle much more in Season 2, so don't worry about that. That's coming down the pipeline. So there you have it. We have some great acting, some great scenes between Matt and Hector. And I just want to say, rest in peace, both, I can't remember the name of the actor, but the actor that plays Hector, the White Tiger, rest in peace. You will be missed. You had an amazing performance. You were a great character, and I would have loved to see more of you, but I understand this storyline is pushing Matt coming back from the light, from the darkness out into the from the darkness out into the light. And I know we're pushing the narrative. In the next episode, I believe we're going to see Matt Murdock not put the suit on yet, but start to emerge by doing kind acts as a vigilante without wearing his suit yet. I think in the trailer there's a scene where Matt is stopping a bank heist, and he ends up, you see it in the trailer, you end up seeing him beat up the guys, put on their stocking cap hat, and breaks this guy's knee very violently. So one of the biggest criticisms of this episode is that there's no action sequences. Even though there's some mob violence and some other stuff, no action sequences. So I do think that episode 4 is gonna, I do wish that this episode had more momentum, and we'll talk about that more in my final score. But I do think that the next episode, Matt Murdock will be out for blood, and he's going to react to the injustice dealt by Hector. And also, all this corrupt cop storylines is building to Frank Castle coming in and fucking shit up, basically. He's going to come in, and he's going to dispense some justice. He's not going to like that they're using his symbol for, and he hates cops. So I definitely think this is going to go in a big positive place. So anyway, guys, I enjoyed this episode of Daredevil. It had great It was great for the lawyer side of Daredevil. It's not a great Daredevil superhero episode. I'm going to give it, as an episode of television, it has great acting, has great pacing. It lacks the momentum of the action not kicking up here. If it had an action sequence, I'd say it would be an 8. Without an action sequence, even though I'm fine with White Tiger, I would have liked to see him in a fight sequence at least once. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's weaker than the other 2 episodes, but I don't think this show is bad. I think it's okay to have weaker episodes. This story is building to Matt going and becoming Daredevil. I think episode 1 and 2 are a little stronger in my humble opinion, but I do like episode 3, and I am happy with a 7 out of 10. Did you enjoy my review? Did you like the episode? What's your thoughts? What's your rating on Daredevil episode 3? Let me know your thoughts, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.